It's one of the best ways I've seen exercise gamified, if that makes sense. Because, like, I've run regularly. I used to run every single day, and, like, there's nothing to gamify there, really, except for, like, trying to beat your best times and paces and all this kind of stuff, which I never really cared about. But when it comes to bouldering, it's literally a game. Like, it's a logic puzzle. You're trying to figure out how to move your body through physical space through this course, following the rules, and it's a good way to keep your brain engaged with the exercise, especially if you have difficulty staying interested in the exercise you're doing. And it's a full body workout. After my first time there, like, all of my muscle group were activated for the most part and were very sore. Luckily for me, I love being sore after a workout. It's like a receipt for the fact that you did good so I'm a big fan of that. My neck is sore because I was climbing and whatnot. In terms of my ability to climb, we were on the lower level stuff, obviously, because it was our first time. I did pretty fucking well. Like, any of the intro level ones, and even the next level up from there, which is still pretty easy, I can reliably do. The third level is what I need to conquer now. It's the one that presents the most difficulty in terms of strategy for climbing and then physical ability. So I'm excited to try to improve at that. I had one big fall, because it was rare I ever fell. But I had one tall fall, which was fun, where I almost barely succeeded on one of my attempts on a third level climb, I guess. It was like bouldering, yeah. Well, it's the one. Let me look it up. I think it's called bouldering. Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, no harness, yeah. With the gum walls. At least that's what they look like to me. So I'm 5'4", and for how high up I was, it was like 3 of me. Ish. Maybe. Maybe like 2.5 of me. So it had to have been like a 10-foot drop, potentially? Maybe a little less? Was the highest drop. But I was fine. But I think my neck didn't like it when I hit the, It's weird to call it the ground, because it's not the ground, it's a fucking mat, but it's like a big, like, it has a lot of give. But I guess you would call it a mat. My neck didn't like it, so I think I fucked it a little bit. It's not that bad. Like, it's not in pain. It's just, like, sore. But yeah. I enjoyed the fall. I'm used to failure when it comes to platformers, because I'm a speedrunner of Super Mario 64. So I'm already pre-equipped for the process here. Unironically, and also jokingly, of course. Like, there's a lot of crossover, like, skills and methods of learning with speedrunning and any other skill. So I've been able to apply those, which is cool. But it's funny, too, because, like, I would look at the wall and the path that I would have to go, and, like, there are rules to it as well. Like, if you're on the third level one, it's color-coded. You cannot use any of the other level ones to, like, as a handhold or a foothold. You can, but, like, if you want to do it as expected with the intended difficulty in mind, you cannot. And so I don't. And I approach it in the same exact way as I approach a platforming games level. Like, I'll look at it, I'll note the route that seems likely given the mechanics and the movement options I have available, I'll visualize it, and then I'll attempt it. And then while I'm attempting it, I'll make note of things that, like, I can only know from experiencing the attempt of doing it. And then, if I succeed or fail, I will take note of the things I could do better and continue to iterate on the process until I'm very confident about it. And that's obviously how you do almost any skill, right? But it was just funny to me that I would be looking at a certain climb that I had to do, and the way I would approach, like, a new Mario star that I would have to learn. You know? It was funny that it was a similar mind state to me. Oh yeah, I was wahooing and yahooing the whole time. Of course. Smallness can be a big advantage for bouldering, but it gets countered by reach before long. Yeah, it's interesting. Because I was in a group of people there with a bunch of talls. So there's like a cost benefit. There's pros and cons. It's a double-edged sword, as always. If you're very tall, you have an advantage when it comes to reach, because you have a larger wingspan. You can reach further. And because of this, you don't have to potentially jump or stretch as much to reach the next thing. And that could make it easier in some ways. But if you're taller, you're also weighing more. So you have to move more weight. Also, if the route you're climbing is very, like, scrunched together, like it requires your feet to be here and your feet to be here, your body will then bend at your back, at your pelvis, and you'll be like this, kind of scrunched. And then your center of mass, because you're tall and you have to scrunch that much, will be further out from the wall at your ass. And that will introduce new physical difficulties when it comes to keeping yourself on the goddamn wall. And that can be difficult as well. Whereas if you're shorter, the more scrunched like foot placement and hand placement, it's not as much of an issue because a taller person, like they might be like this on the fucking wall because of that, whereas I might be like that. And it's going to be easier for me to keep myself in that position, and it's going to require less energy and whatnot, and different muscle groups and activations of the muscles. But then, on the contrary, the plus side for being 5'4" is that I don't weigh as much, so I'm not moving as much weight, and then the positive I just gave. But the negative is my arms are tiny. So I'm having to potentially jump more, which makes it so that my ability to grab onto the next thing and my ability to keep foot placement is going to be different. Like if a tall person, if your feet are here and you have to grab a thing, if you can just reach and grab it and stay with your feet on the foothold that you have, bada bing, bada boom. That's all you got to do. The only variable there is your ability to keep your foot there and to keep your hand there and to keep yourself on the wall. If there's a shorter person like I am, I might not be able to reach the next handhold while keeping my foot on the foothold, which means that more variables are going to be introduced in my ability to get to the next handhold, and then where the fuck my foot is going to go because it's not going to reach the previous foothold I was on because of how short I am, So I'm going to have to think about, okay, I'm going to have to make a small leap and then grab on and hold on. So my grip strength has to be good, like my joints have to be pretty good, I have to be pretty solid in how I grab it, and then either I'm gonna hang there using only my arms to keep myself up, or I'm gonna have to find a foothold in the same range of motion as I am grabbing the next handhold, and it's just a different way you have to approach the route. And it's really interesting to me. I find it very neat, but of course I would, It's a logic puzzle, it's platforming, there's a lot going on. It's one of the best ways I've seen exercise gamified, if that makes sense. For me, anyway. Like, I can't think of any other ways that I've seen exercise gamified. Because, I've run regularly. I used to run every single day, or every other day, rather. And, there's nothing to gamify there, really, except for, trying to beat your best times and paces and all this kind of stuff, which I never really cared about. I was more interested in endurance, so I like to run for a while. I'm not trying to go for speed or whatever. I don't really care how long it takes me to do a thing. I care about the mileage I'm putting out. But, it's just running. And I used to do it a lot, and it's fine. When it comes to, any calisthenics I would do, there's not a whole lot to do there except for, being able to do more reps of a thing or whatever. But when it comes to bouldering, it's literally a game. It's a logic puzzle. You're trying to figure out how to move your body through physical space through this course, following the rules. At least that's the way I like to play. You don't have to. And it's a good way to keep your brain engaged with the exercise, especially if you have difficulty staying interested in the exercise you're doing. And it's a full body workout. After my first time there, all of my muscle groups were activated for the most part and were very sore, and still are. And it was several days ago. Luckily for me, I love being sore after a workout. It's like a receipt for the fact that you did good shit. Obviously, if I'm sore after work, for instance, back when I had a day job, that shit sucks because it's I became sore through physical exertion, sure, from being on my feet all day and picking up heavy-ass chicken boxes, 60-pound chicken boxes, and moving them from a pallet to a blah, 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 right? But, it's doing a job that I hate, and I don't really care about it. So that kind of soreness is fuck, man, I don't want to be sore from this. And it can get in the way of other exercise, right? But when it comes to exercise soreness, it's I was doing this intentionally. I know the soreness is a part of that, and, my muscles healing and whatnot, and it feels good. It's proof that I've done it. It's a receipt. So I'm a big fan of that. I do have, a bit of a pain tolerance thing going on. I have an interest in pain generally, not, in a super masochistic way, but, I've always enjoyed working out. I've always enjoyed trying to get through pain, even if it was pain from, injuries or illness. I like the process of recovery. I find it very interesting. Stuff like that. So I have that benefit as well, I guess. But yeah, it's very pug. So if you have, if you're able, if there's, a place around you, grab a friend is going to be the best way you're going to do it because you can, both experience it at the same time. Even if you're both new, it's going to make the process a lot easier for you. Probably less social anxiety too. go to if a climbing gym, if one's in your area or within a distance you can travel, and give it a shot. Make sure you follow all the rules, the safety rules, whatnot. Stretch beforehand and after, theoretically. Be careful. Go at a pace that makes sense to you. Don't push your limits. There's no reason to push limits until you know what they are. And you know that you could recover, a negative consequence of pushing that limit, which will come with skill being built up. Though it is still a good idea to test them once you're confident, obviously, because that's how you improve and unlock new abilities that you didn't have previously. And try it out. You might enjoy it, especially if you've had difficulty sticking with exercise in the past. The big problem with that is for a lot of people, it's very boring. Like, I'm a fucking lunatic. I'm a nutcase, so I love cardio. And I love long duration runs, like stamina tests and endurance tests. A lot of people don't like cardio because it exercises the heart and lungs, and you need those things to live. And if those things become like tired and sore, it feels like you're dying, right? Because you need those things to live, and now they're like getting worked to the point where the things that keep you alive are now like going through the process of like muscle growth and whatnot, right? So like it's obvious why people don't like cardio, because it makes you feel like shit. I'm in the position where I enjoy feeling like shit from that. So, I have that going for me as well. That's why I like endurance running, even though my joints aren't very good for it. So I'm probably going to get a stationary bike at some point. Drew Awesome Amazing on the same wavelength. I would bike outside, but I'm not going to die anytime soon. Like the Seattle bike lanes are pretty good, but they're not perfect. And I'm good on that. But and like climbing is a cardio exercise, but it's not one where you have to like gas yourself, every time you do it. Like you could take breaks. Like you do a route, you either succeed or fail or whatever, and then you can just chill. You can just sit on the mat and vibe out for a little bit. Watch other people, what they're doing, see how, you might be able to adopt some of those things that they're doing and get better, yada, 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 or just do it for an entertainment. Because it's a public place, you're allowed to watch people, and it's often going to help you anyway, especially watching better people. And it's really good. Really good. And then once you're, back into the swing of things, when you're all chilled out, you can go back to the climb. I think running on grass is better for the joints. Yeah, it is. It does introduce its own complications. Like, you can twist an ankle a lot easier. Like, if you've got uneven ground, there's, like, a fucking root or something, or, like, a fucking rabbit hole, or, like, mud in the ground that fucks you up. So you gotta be careful with that, but, such is life. The one negative for me for climbing is that it requires the hands a lot. And I've always had softer skin, and I've had sensitive skin. So my skin can crack very easily, so I moisturize constantly. But the funny thing about that when it comes to climbing is you don't want your hands to be moisturized, you want them to be bone dry, essentially. To the point where you use chalk in order to make your hands more, coarse, frictional, have more friction, so that you can keep yourself and your grip on the fucking wall. And that's devastating to the hands. Plus, the way that you're gripping on the things that you're gripping on, they're already textured and coarse to make them easier to hold on to, which will then fuck your hands up. Like, afterward, like, all of the major points that my hands were touching things on were red, worse than anybody else's in the group that I was with. So, like, I just have the more sensitive skin, I would imagine. And the chalk does not help. Now, like, I have, like, cracks in the skin and whatnot, and chalking that was a big L, unfortunately. I realized too late that they offered tape that you could put around your finger, which would, like, make it so that you don't have to worry about that as much. And I'll do that before putting chalk on my hands, rather than after next time, so it actually stays on better. But, like, the tape helped. But yeah. They make gloves for rock climbing? Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that would give me an unfair advantage over people that aren't doing it. Like, if I absolutely needed to, I would. But I don't absolutely need to. So I won't. Because, like, if the gloves give me extra grip in some way, I feel like that's unfair, I don't like that idea. Plus, I like the idea of it being my hands, my skin touching what I'm touching. I like the tactile feedback that I get from, like, this is literally my skin on the goddamn thing. It feels more human, like I'm the one doing it, rather than there being a barrier of separation, I used to do gymnastics, and I literally quit because I hated bars so much, simply because of the chalk, yeah. I got the tism and dry texture stuff. Yeah, same. My physical sensibilities, the fact that I don't like my hands to be dirty ever, and if I get anything on them, like, even if I touch something that hasn't left a residue on my hand, my brain, for whatever reason, makes my skin feel like there is, in fact, something on my hand. And, like, I want to wash it off, even though, like, there's not really anything there. And because of that, the fact that my hands have to be dirty to climb is annoying, but it is what it is, you know? Running on sand on the beach? If only. Like Baywatch. I have the same issue with most exercise until I found MMA. Building towards a fight is also rewarding if you lose or not. Yeah, that makes sense too. And it's another logic puzzle. Fighting logic is very interesting to me as well, which is why I like watching MMA and whatnot. It's like chess, you know? You try to influence your opponent to do a certain thing so you can take advantage of it. You have to learn the patterns of your opponent, and yeah, there's so much cool shit when it comes to combat sports. Isn't rock climbing awesome? I miss it. Stupid responsibilities. I believe in your ability to get back into it, Lumcroy.